What's up guys, welcome back for another video. Today's project, we're going to transform this Chevy Equinox into my new towing rig. Okay, so obviously that's not true. We're not going to turn this thing into a towing rig. A 4-cylinder Chevy Equinox is never going to be much of a tow vehicle. However, I am going to put a hitch on this thing today. So my primary reason for doing this is that actually my son is going to be moving out of state, and he's going to be bringing his bike with him this summer, and I'm envisioning multiple, 1,000-mile trips with his bike. So I want to be able to put a hitch on this car so that he can have a receiver, receiver adapter bike mount on this. I'd rather do that than have the kind that straps to the back window and has straps flying all over the place. Plus, this also kind of gives him a little bit of flexibility in the future. He's going to be moving out of state for an internship and for college, and I can foresee the potential need in the future to, for him maybe to get one of those, real small U-Haul trailers to potentially move himself around or something like that. So putting a hitch on here will give him the option to do that. So anyway, so I picked up this hitch. This is from eTrailer.com, and they've got a couple different options out there. I got the one that is it actually has the heaviest weight rating. So it's rated for, it's a 4,500 pound hitch, max tongue rate 675 pounds. So, he's never gonna put 4,500 pounds behind this car, but the hitch was, I think it was 119 bucks, something like that, like 125 delivered to my door. So super affordable. And I think this thing should be relatively straightforward going on. I haven't pulled open the hardware kit yet, but we're going to have some bolts that are going to go straight up into the unibody frame, and then on each side we've got 3 bolts, side of the frame, and then 1 going up. So I'm going to take this thing apart. We'll take a look and see what the hardware kit looks like, and I just thought I'd show you what the install entails. All right, so hitch comes with some pretty basic instructions here. Just 1-page instructions, which is what you'd expect for just a few bolts. Here's the hardware kit. It's got some carriage bolts, some regular bolts, washers, some spacer deals that go up inside the frame, I guess. And then it's got this funky puller, which I'll show you in a second, that you use to actually pull the bolts up. I think from the kind of the outside of the bumper frame down to the hole where they need to come out. So I'll show you that here in just a second. But pretty basic, some ratchets, some extensions, and some sockets, and I think that's basically all we're going to need to install this thing. So the very first step, there's this plastic cover that goes over where your hitch is going to be, and it just has some plastic little poppers here that I'm probably not going to be able to do with one hand, but press that forward and down, forward and down. All right, so to start this process, what we need to do is use one of these pull wires, and they actually came 4 of these pull wires in the kit. I'm not exactly sure why there's so many, but what we need to do, this will make sense once I get into the car here in a second. So we've got 2 different size spacers. We're going to start with these larger spacers, and the carriage bolt fits in those spacers. So what we're going to do is thread a carriage bolt into the spacer, and then we're going to thread this pull wire onto this carriage bolt. And this is basically going to allow us to sneak this thing up into the frame and still have control of the bolt, basically. Because if you lose your bolt up in the frame, obviously you're going to get a little bit screwed. So we're going to do this. And actually I might as well, since I've got several of these, I guess that's why they give you 4, because there's actually 4 different places you need to do this. Take my other large spacer, and I'll get this one thread on as well. And I'm going to crawl into the car and we'll get these first 2 bolts installed. All right, so just to show you what we're doing here into the car. So I'm over here on the passenger side now. And so on the frame here, there are 2 bolts here that actually have threaded nuts welded inside there. I'm gonna need to find a brush or something to get those cleaned out a little bit better so the bolts will go in. So we're going in here, and then this hole here, that's where this carriage bolt's going in. So theoretically, that thing should fit. Alright, so bolt in first. Shove the spacer up in here. Alright, there you go. So once you get that mess up in there, that spacer takes that up, and now I'll have to use 2 hands. Oh, no, I can probably do this one. So I'll thread my pull wire. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use 2 hands. I'll pull my thread my pull wire off of there, and then I'll just have this up in here. Now I have to be really careful when I raise this hitch up here that I don't accidentally push these bolts back up into that frame. That would be a problem. So I'm gonna be really careful about that. But so I'm gonna do that here. And I'm also gonna have to do that. I need kind of right where the actual tube hitch is in the center of the car in the very rear bumper. We're gonna need to use this hole and that hole, and there are smaller spacers that I'm gonna do that same thing with once I get there. So I'll get this off, I'll go ahead and drop the one on the other side, and then I'll come back. Okay, now I'm moving out to the 2 carriage bolts that go in the bumper. Taking my pull wire here, we're gonna go up through this hole, and I'm threading this through the bumper over here to the side of the car. All right, so now we're over here on the outside, on the driver's side, and you can see the pull wire has popped through this side. So now I'm gonna thread this carriage bolt on here, and then I'm gonna pull it back through. We're gonna pull it through, and we're gonna pop out here so that the bolt is sticking through this hole. The plate will be up against the bumper and give us our mounting position. So let me get this threaded on here, and I'll pull it through. All right, we're threaded on. Now we'll see how easy this goes. Look at that. Very slick. Not sure who came up with this system, but they are brilliant. All right, I'll pull the other one through the other side, and it's gonna be ready to try to figure out how I get this bumper lifted into position. All right, so got these bolts set up with these conical washers, and per the instructions, this one side has kind of teeth on it, and that side goes toward the hitch. So we're gonna need 4 of those. Those are gonna go on the side plates here, and they go through like that into the basically the frame rails, I guess, down there. So those, I think what I'm gonna do is once I get it lifted into position, I'll try to get those loosely in, and that'll hold everything in place. And I think for lifting this, I'm just gonna leave these pull wires on for right now. That way, if I accidentally push one of those carriage bolts up into the bumper or into the frame, it won't be a problem. I can just pull them back down. So I think until I get everything situated, I'm gonna leave those pull wires on there. All right, I'm gonna show you guys how I have this set up here. So I'm on a floor jack. I got a 6x6 block. I guess I didn't even mention, I did put this car up on ramps, just to get up in the air. So it's a little easier to work, which I recommend. But if I didn't have it on ramps, I wouldn't need that 6x6. But so my plan is that I'm just going to now jack this up into position, and it makes sense now why they give you four different pull wires. Like I said before, I've left those on there, and I think that's how you're supposed to do it. I guess if I read the instructions, probably says that. So I've actually got those threaded through each hole position where the bolts need to go through. So I'm just going to kind of take my time here and slowly raise it up into position to make sure that you get it, left and right correctly. I'm not sure how well I'll be able to show you this, but I'm going to get this thing jacked up here and see if I can get a couple bolts started. Needs to slip underneath that fascia there, the rear bumper cover. All right, so I'm not sure. I may need to trim. Kind of looks to me like I'm going to need to trim that a little bit. I think I'll go ahead and we'll get it jacked up a little bit higher. Actually, this bumper cover needs to come down like that. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to trim that just a little bit. But before I do so, I'm gonna get it lifted up a little bit, see if I can get a couple bolts started, and then I'll confirm if that has to be cut. All right, so I got the driver's side kind of loosely tacked on there. Using a mallet to get my holes lined up. One of the tricky things, we live on a gravel road, so everything's all packed full of grime and everything. I tried to clean it out the best I could, but still a lot of grime in those threads, so that's giving me a little bit of resistance, but not too bad. All right, so those are loosely started, and incidentally, it looks like I will not have to trim anything over there, so that's nice. So now that I've got these started, I'm gonna go ahead and just pull that wire off of there. A couple more of these conical washers, and this is where you have to be real careful. You don't shove that bolt up into that frame rail. That would be a pain. All right, so I think I'm probably to the point now where I can go ahead and drop the jack down, and I'll get those last two nuts on there, and then once I have that on, I can go ahead and get everything torqued down, tightened up, and then torqued down. And you can see that these might be just a little bit trickier to get to. Of course, I got the dog helping me too. That's always helpful. Hey, hey. Okay, not right now. Not right now. Again, being really careful. I'm got my left hand against the bolt and my right hand very carefully threading that nut on. Really don't want to push that up into the frame. That'd be a bad thing to have happen. All right, that one, I'll get this side on. All right, so I've got all the bolts and nuts started. I'm going to tighten up On both sides, these 2 bolts that are actually going into the threaded nuts in the side of the frame rail, I'm going to tighten those first because those are, you know, there's no flexibility there. These other ones that have those backer plates, those can kind of slide around, so I don't want to tighten those down before I get these sides. So I'll hand tighten and I'll come back. I don't know, the instructions say, I think these are like 75 foot-pounds, something like that. So I'll just get this all tightened up. These two, and then I'll come back and I'll do the 4 on either side, and then I guess I've got 4 on the bottom as well. I'll just get those hand tight and then I'll come back and torque them. All right, so these bottom nuts all get torqued to 75 foot-pounds. And these 4 bolts on the side that go into the frame rail, these are 92 foot-pounds. And by the way, guys, just so you know, apparently, according to the state of California, this steel bumper can cause cancer and reproductive harm, so you can never be too careful. Alright guys, so there's the final installation of the Draw-Tite receiver hitch, 2017 Chevy Equinox. So, turned out good. Not a problem really. Here's our, so for our intended purposes, for right now, there you go, bike rack mounted, ready for a trip to Texas. And you know, this car is very capable of pulling a small trailer too, as long as you don't abuse it. You'd need to wire in some lights, obviously, which I'm not going to mess with because, you know, if that's something he needs down the road, he can have somebody do that. I'm not going to worry about it for right now. But I don't know, probably leave yourself a couple hours. It probably doesn't even take that long really to install it. Pretty easy installation. Again, I got this from eTrailer.com. I'm sure you can get these from other places as well, but eTrailer's always been a good vendor. I've gotten a lot of things from them in the past. So anyway, hopefully you guys found that helpful. Do me a favor if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and we'll see you in the next one.